Welcome to This Is Salvation,
a podcast brought to you by Albury Media.
Through real stories, real faith and real hope, we hope you'll experience the life-changing power of salvation.
I think once you're in the middle of a horrible situation where you're angry and you're in pain, you don't know what's going on. I will say honestly that God sent people to me. I felt as though something was holding me there, and it's the weirdest thing, I can't explain it. Felt that God was holding me in the midst of that. It's that idea of us having a faith and a knowledge, but also saying to someone, I need you to hold me accountable. What am I going to fight? Is it going to make a difference if I fight it or not? I think as we mature as Christians and as human beings and as people in our world, we learn to understand what is the point of fighting. Is it a battle worth fighting? We shy away from the God who calls us to discipline. But it doesn't mean he doesn't listen and hear our anger and our frustration and our pain, because most of it comes out of that.
You mentioned other people and how they can be so important when you're going through an angry time with God, or if you can't see God, he brings other people in. I know in my life he's brought other people in that have, when I've been angry, they've actually helped me and helped me find God again and helped me see where he is. And I think that was a really important point. So when you've been through these difficulties, what have you learned about God's character?
That he's really patient with me, that he's big enough to hear me. He's big enough for me to be angry at him. I think we forget, because we talk, don't we? I think because we're humans, I was talking about this with somebody else, we imagine God to be like the human that we are. I don't know what he looks like, but I'm made in his image, so he looks pretty awesome, because I'm pretty amazing. I mean, like, seriously, that whole idea of it. But I've limited him. We talk about God in a box. And I don't want God in a box, because if I believe that he is a God, it says in the Gospels that nothing is impossible for God. And so what I've learned is he can take on all my pain and anger. Jesus himself cried out, why have you forsaken me, Dad? Mm-hmm. Dad, why have you left me? What have you done? You've forgotten about me here. If Jesus, the Son of God, can tell his own Father, God, you've forgotten me, then I don't think God's got a problem with me having an argument with him and shouting. I mean, how many of us had that, you know?
Well, yeah, sometimes we feel we've got to be these perfect Christians, haven't we? But we're only human, aren't we, at the end of the day, like you say?
But God wants us to be authentic.
Yeah. Authentic
faith will bring more people to know who Jesus is than a perfect faith. Because there's an old Salvation Army hymn, chorus, that says, to be like Jesus, this hope possesses me. It doesn't say to be like Jesus. I might do it if I live like this, if I wear the right clothes, if I've got the right colour hair, if I've trimmed my beard, or if I've got me... Do you know what I mean? If I wear the right makeup, it says, to be like Jesus, the hope possesses me. In every thought and deed, this is my aim, my creed. Jesus was a human man. I'm a woman. But my aim is to be like Jesus. That's the hope I have. And that can include every single emotion that there is. And that's who it is. And God can cope and handle me being annoyed at him and angry at him and wanting to punch out somebody's lights. But he can. And he can cope with all of that because he's felt that anger as well towards humanity. But then ended up turning it around and loving humanity, as we said, through Christ on the cross, the suffering. So if he can do that and get over it, I think he can cope with me being a bit annoyed.
Yeah.
What's that song you sing at Kids Club about the box in the corner?
Oh, yeah. Don't shove it in a... what is it? Oh, what is it now? Don't shove it in a box, don't shove it in a corner. Oh,
I can't remember.
I can't think
I've
either.
never heard that one.
I'll try and remember it for the end.
So for anyone that's listening that might feel like God's presence has gone from their lives, what would you say to them right now?
That's a big question, so I want to make sure I get it right.
Yeah.
And I mean that.
Yeah.
God is okay meeting you where you are. There's moments we think he's gone. And I hate that thing that we've moved away from him. He hasn't moved away from us. That's too cliche of a thing. He's just standing, watching you. We have this image of angels, don't we? Who are these cuddly little chubby things that sit on a cloud and play a violin.
Little cherubs.
Yeah. But in the Psalms, there is a verse that said that God will command his angels to concern over you. And if you feel that God is missing right now, I'm going to say to you that God's got his angels protecting you. They're there with these great big swords ready to fight. I love the idea that angels are not little singing cherubs. There might be some of them. It says that there's the seraphim and that singing. But I also think there's some great big warrior angels who God has commanded to protect you. Just while you're in the middle of that pain and that anger and that mess. I have to think that about the people I work with, the survivors I work with, the people I sit with, that God is going to protect them. And he's got angels sitting there. We often talk about near misses in cars. I was in a major car accident 7 years ago that stopped a whole load of festivities for my 50th birthday. A colleague and I were sideswiped, T-boned down a road in the middle of Milan. He had taken the impact and I was on this side. And he'd had a major operation and we thought it was going to affect the end of that operation. The effect of that operation would have gone up the Swanee. I ended up with a double compound fracture on my right leg, on my ankles. Was told I'd never walk again. Was told I would be in pain for the rest of my life. I'm not. I'm walking, I've walked loads. But God must have had something in there, because if we had been hit 2 seconds earlier or 2 seconds later, I'd have been wrapped round a tree or in the wall of a bank. We'd have hit cars. But the way he's hit us, we were pushed straight down the street and we hit no other vehicles going down the street. And I have to believe that there and then there were angels on that car. Didn't prevent the twit who hit us, but made sure we were protected. So my mate Luigi, he is living a full life. Walking, he is healthy. Me, I finished a 120-kilometre Camino this year, a pilgrimage walk, and I'm healthy and fit. But out of that, God brought conversations. And God will send, even in the midst of your pain and your difficult life. That was another time I was screaming at God about being stuck in plaster when I could have been at a 50th birthday party. But God, I don't know. And when I've been there and I've done that, and when you're there and you're doing it, don't worry about it. God ain't going to worry about it. You haven't got to worry about that. That's when you have to call in your friends to pray. Find the people you can be angry with and say, I am so angry at God, but I need you to pray. Because I'm in pain, I'm suffering, and I really don't like him right now. And that's when community makes sense. But sometimes we forget to ask that prayer.
Yeah.
And I just hope and pray you know there are angels around you, fighting for you, looking after you. And they will ward off all the extra stuff. Yes, you're in the pain and the suffering, probably caused by another human, but not a divine pain and suffering. Allow God to do that. And we talk about the dark night of the soul sometimes. And it's okay for us to live in that valley. It's okay for us to live in that darkness. Because actually that's where we come out stronger. If we're all happy all the time, we don't understand what pain is. And also, let's be honest, God sometimes also has provided medics. He's created people who were clever enough to invent paracetamol and ibuprofen and other drugs. They're just the two I can pronounce. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a few I can't. They always give me drugs you can't pronounce. Yeah. And I'm just thinking, he's created those drugs. People can have invented them and created them. So let's not be scared if it's right that we need to get support and help to get through the dark time. And that doesn't just come from friends, that can come from professional. And I need that to be heard. If you need professional care and help, do it, because God has created people who are cleverer than me to help you through that.
So we've talked about being angry with God. We've also talked about how God meets us in those situations as well. But for a lot of people, the hardest part isn't recognising God again. It's about trusting him again. So how would you even start rebuilding trust with God after you've been hurt or felt let down?
It's really funny because I work with people who've been hurt by Christians sometimes. And they go, why should I trust you? And my first answer is, you shouldn't. And they look at me and they go, what? I once was sat in a lap dancing club. Here we go. Sat in a lap dancing club in Euston Station and talking to a woman. And she went, why would I trust you Christians? Because every time I've trusted one of you, you've just spouted horrible things at me. And I go, yeah, I wouldn't trust us either. And she looked at me. I said, because actually you're trusting the human part. Trust God and let's believe in God. And I was allowed to pray with her in the middle of a lap dancing club. And I've prayed in so many brothels and so many saunas, and I've had the best Christian conversations. So I would say our trust is formed by the way we see other Christians. So I would throw it back on us as believers. If somebody loses their trust and faith in God, it's because they've seen the stupid behaviour of other Christians. Yeah. We have got to be better representatives of God in our world. Let's be 100% honest and say that sometimes we don't represent him brilliantly. We don't represent that thing. And if somebody has lost their faith and trust in God, that is okay. Doubting and having questions is 100% healthy. And I think sometimes, and I will say to people, you're going to see me. Because the reality is, we say to kids, we want you to talk about God. We want to talk. They'll go, well, I haven't seen him. What's he look like? And it's that whole thing of like, we don't see the wind. We see the effect of the wind. When the wind is swirling the leaves around, we know that's the wind doing it. But you don't actually see the force that is the wind blowing past you. People don't actually see God. They see God in us. They see Jesus and us as representatives, him in the community. So we need to be the ones, if we know a friend has having a tough time, then we've got to be the ones saying to that friend, let me show you Jesus. Let me be God. Let me show you God to you. Let you show the God that loves me with my anger, my pain, my disappointment. Let me show that to you. Rather than... you can't. You've just got to trust him. You got to just trust him. And I'm going, yeah, that's going to happen. And it's us being that honest. And sometimes when we give our testimonies, we stand up and say, oh, yeah, I had an amazing week. God did all this amazing stuff for me. What about if we stood up and somebody said, oh, I've had a really bad week. I'm so happy. And it's that authenticity. So let's be authentic in our faith. Let's be Christians who actually talk about the good, the bad and the ugly. Because the reality being, every single one of us has got an ugly story. Every single one of us has got a story of where we lost. People don't leave church because they've lost faith in God. People lose church, in my eyes, because they've lost faith in what the Christians they see in church. Yeah. Because they're terrible, terrible witnesses to who God is. So we have to pull our socks up. We have to be better representatives, because I represent the King of Kings. I represent the Lord of Lords. People out there don't see Jesus, they see me. So that's why I have my little Jesus on my dashboard, so that I represent him better. I represent him to every survivor, to every victim, to every exploiter, to every member of parliament, to every councillor, to every king and queen, to every man on the street. to every woman begging, every mum who's struggling and fed up. They see Jesus because I represent him. So if you have lost faith in Jesus, it's not because of what God has done or hasn't done. It's because of what Twit has done. And there has to be a point that I have to be better. And it falls on us as Christians and friends in our communities. Walk with my friend. Let my friend have the questions. I've got friends who don't go to church anymore because they have doubts. They've seen behaviour that makes no sense. Well, we've got to do better. We've got to hold each other accountable. We've got to say, what are you doing, you twit? Thought you were a representative of Jesus. Thought you were a representative of the King of Kings. Yeah, pull the speck out your own eye and the log out your own eye. But also let somebody say, Estelle, why do you act like that? That was a bit prattish behaviour. That wasn't behaviour of Jesus. And we have to be honourable in that as well and trust the people we trust. People look for authenticity.
Yeah.
They don't want fake. They want it when things go wrong, when music falls off the stand. Everybody prefers a kid's play when one of the kids is being a twit on stage.
Yeah, they do.
When it's perfect, you go, oh, that was a bit too... Nobody talks about the perfect bit. They talk about all things that go wrong.
Well, the pantomime, isn't it? When you get to the pantomime and they go wrong or something.
Yeah,
You
but
remember that,
we all
yeah.
prefer that. But
Yeah.
imagine if that was church. Oh, it's a great church because things go wrong and they talk about it.
Yeah, it's more real.
It's the authentic Christian.
So how does forgiveness fit into this? Because for some, anger at God is tied into grief or bitterness, and forgiveness seems impossible.
I have to make a choice to forgive. That's as simple. There's no fancy word for this. I choose to forgive. There are some things in my life that I've got angry about with people and incidents and situations that I won't talk about because that's too personal and private. So I choose to forgive and I ask God to bless those individuals. Father, I'm choosing to forgive that person. Now please bless them. Give them the best day. Give them the best blessings. Make sure somebody tells them they look amazing. Because it's emotional and spiritual and mental energy that I could lose on somebody. But if I say God bless them, I don't mean, oh, just God bless them. I actually mean, God, give them what they need today. Give them the best of everything. Because that might be, somebody have said that about me. But also that might be for them, why am I getting all these blessings? Why is all these good? Zacchaeus got all the blessings in the world when he encountered Jesus and he changed it. Everybody was so annoyed with that Jesus invited him to Zacchaeus, get out the tree, you silly twit, and come to your house. Why would you go with him? He's a weirdo. He steals from people. He extorts. He extortion. He does all of that. He's an exploiter. Well, Jesus said, I'm going to go and have tea with him because actually he had an encounter with Jesus and things changed. And Jesus blessed him. And what did Zacchaeus do? He gave back extra to everybody. That's what we need. So I choose to forgive. I choose to bless. Because then I know that they've got to work it out with Jesus, not me.
I always think of it as when you forgive someone, it's not, you have to be their best friend. It's about freeing yourself, isn't it? Mainly. And releasing yourself from being angry or, whatever emotions you might be feeling so that you can kind of move on from that situation, but still, like you said, but I'm just, if someone's really
Because I
hurt
always
you.
struggle with this, but God opens people up with open arms into his house. And I felt like if somebody did something to me and I needed to forgive them, I'd feel like I need to open my home. I feel like but sometimes that's really hard, but I'd feel like I need to be Jesus in
I'd
that
have to
sense.
clean up first. I'd have to clean and tidy, make sure the loo had a whip round. Do you know what I mean? I'd be like, I 100% agree with both what you're saying. The forgiveness thing, though, but the moment you're holding on to that forgiveness, that individual sometimes doesn't even know they've done you wrong. And you're holding on to everything and you're holding on to it. And the moment, somebody once said to me, the moment you choose to forgive and you forgive somebody, you're actually releasing them to be dealt with by God. You're actually releasing the pain from here so that you're not carrying around the pain that they have caused. Who said you got to suddenly open up the door to let them all in? Like, where is that in the Bible?
But in my mind, to forgive somebody, I've always had this really hard thing. In my mind, to forgive somebody, I've got to.
But is
welcome
that in the
them to
Bible? If it's not in the teaching of Jesus, who said that? I'm saying, I don't know if it is in the teaching. Find somebody who might know, but should know. But forgiveness is about it's not about forgetting either. We've said that. It's not about forgetting the pain that something caused you. We all know that when you stub your toe, it flipping hurts. And you try to avoid it. But guarantee you, the next day you'd forgotten how much it hurt when you stub your toe. If you stub it again, you always go, I forgot how much it hurts. And forgiveness is us saying, I don't want that pain anymore, so I am giving it up because I remember it causes pain. And I don't think it says we've got to suddenly open our doors to everybody. That's Jesus and God's job. They're better than we are. They're perfect. I'm not.
But that's where I've got myself always tied up in knots because I think, oh, God would invite them all in. So I feel like I'm doing wrong.
Well, he might do, but you're not God. You're not God, are you? You're not God, are you?
No.
So why have you got to do what he would? He would do that. That's who he is. He's got millions of mansions prepared in heaven for the people.
Mansions.
I've got a 3-bedroom detached house. It's not going to fit all the people that I've forgiven in it. All the people that need to forgive me. I'm never going to fit them all in my house. And I think sometimes that's the whole thing of forgiveness is about us releasing the crazy pain and allowing God to deal with that individual. Blessing them is us saying, oh, well, bless you, mate. And it can go from, I forgive him, but bless him, Lord, or bless that. Because we use bless him as a derogatory thing as well as we do, oh, God bless you, brother, when we can angry. But what about if we turned it round and went, God bless you, sister? Because it's helping us to realise that actually God can bless them. And it actually, in the blessings, they might change. And it's like, why? God's never said I've got to let anybody in my house. It's not safe either. No, but you know what I mean? You can't let all the world and his wife in your house. Especially in a world like we live now with DBS and all that like and everybody in church. You can't just have all the world and their wife in your house. I mean, there's some people that you can still be angry with people. You don't realise you're angry with people until 10 years later. You say, why am I so... Oh, my best mate and I, we went through a tough time and 10 years down the line, we realised there was still some things that we hadn't dealt with. Now they're not there. And I said to her, I had to forgive you and choose to love you on those days. And we had such an open conversation, and now it's a free conversation and there's love. But it doesn't mean that either of us have ever forgotten that painful conversation or that painful moment. We just choose that not to be the main reason.
Yeah, I like that. The fact that forgiveness frees you. And it's almost like it reopens that space for trust again, doesn't it?
It's that turning it round. It doesn't mean Sunday. I think what happens is you put your guard up. When people have lived with illness for a long time, when they get better, they don't quite know how to live with healing and that health and that better. And when you've been sick for a long time, you've had a really bad cold, and then suddenly you've got energy, you think, oh my Lord, I haven't had this kind of energy for days. I think there can sometimes be a guilt that I've got through this and I'm alive and I've survived this pain. And suddenly I have to love everybody. I heck no. We love others in the name of Jesus, but don't mean we have to trust all the world all of a sudden. I'm not saying you suddenly become the most trusting person in the world. I'm saying that what you do is you know where and how, and you rely on God a lot more to guide you and understand you.
So today we've talked about quite a lot, and I think we've heard through all the stories that Estelle's told us that God doesn't walk away when we're angry. He doesn't wait for us to calm down or clean up before, he comes to meet us as well. He meets us in those questions, in the silence, in the anger, and he helps us rebuild that trust as well. So if you're listening today and feel distant from God, then maybe your next step isn't just to try and understand everything. Maybe it's just to say to God, I'm still here. Will you come and meet me? And the truth is he will, because that's who he is. So thank you, Estelle, for joining us today. Really appreciate it and bringing all your heart and your passion into this topic and subject. Yeah, thank you very much.
No, thank you. It's been really good to be able to just share a little bit and have a laugh, but also be able to talk about some of the deep stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Next time on This Is Salvation, we're moving into our Advent theme. It's called Waiting in the Dark, Why Hope Still Matters. Because sometimes God's silence isn't his absence. It's where hope begins. Until then, remember, you can bring your anger, your doubt, your heartbreak, and still find grace waiting for you.
Because this
Is
Salvation.